chiar vreau să mulțumesc celor care ne-au primit aici.
He wants to thank to all of you who made this event possible in the European Parliament.
Dar îmi pare rău că nu dă decât doi dintre membrii Parlamentului European aici.
On the other hand, he was expecting more MEPs to be present here because it's such a sensitive subject for everybody in Europe. And it's a pity that only 2 of you are present now today. And we invited a lot of Romanian MEPs, but they just ignored us.
Și eu nu vorbesc foarte mult în fericire. Vreau să spun doar atât. Ar trebui ca toată Europa să militeze, să interzicem definitiv pentru toată Europa cianurile și fracturarea hidrovică.
That we should all fight is a strong word, but this is the meaning in fact. In Europe, to forbid fracking, because, as you said before, it's affecting each of us. We had a protest in the Luxembourg Square before, and we all had the conclusion that it's affecting each and every aspect of our lives. It's affecting the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the soil that feeds us. And we should be very aware of this, and we should all fight against this.
Războiul nostru este pentru siguranța generațiilor viitoare.
Our fight is for the future of the next generations, for our kids and for our grandkids. Perhaps you can read your message now. Poți să citești mesajul în scrisoarea ta în română?
Da, dacă vreți și aveți răbdare să citesc.
It's already translated for you. Please. And I have also, please. We expected more.
Ok.
Poți să citești.
Bun. Mă numesc Alexandru Popescu și sunt din România. Vin dintr-un colț al Europei unde valori precum respectul pentru natură sau pentru cetățeni suferă teribil în ultimii ani. Am asistat neputincios ani în șir la distrugerea comunităților locale, a munților, a apelor, a viitorului copiilor noștri. Neputința mea, ca simplu cetățean al unei Europe de la care așteptăm totul, a atins recent o limită care m-a determinat să fac uz tocmai de drepturile mele cetățenești pentru a lupta în granițele neputințelor mele. Pentru tot ce poate părea pentru mulți o sumă de cauze pierdute. Așa cum îmi recomandă Constituția țării din care vin, am dreptul și obligația să-mi apăr țara. De multe ori am fost nevoit să o facem tocmai împotriva celor care o conduc. Am protestat, alături de zeci și sute de mii de oameni, toamna trecută împotriva deciziilor unui guvern corupt de a sacrifica prin minerit cu cianură bucate de România. Vocea celor de lângă care am avut onoarea să mă alătur în stradă a răsunat în sute de orașe în Europa și în lume. Vocea lor nu a tăcut. Vocea lor strigă în continuare nu doar împotriva cianurii, ci și a corupției care plănuia ca un proiect privat să ajungă litere de lege în România. Chiar în acest moment, aceleași autorități corupte ascund opiniei publice actele de autorizare ale unei mine cu cianuri la Certeș, în România, și dau frâu liber construirii minei, în total contrasens cu legea și în dispreț total față de opinia cetățenilor, larg și fără echivoc exprimată. Vocile lor strigă împotriva gazelor de șist, o plagă care a copleșit România și care a ajuns să calce în picioare oameni, cu drepturi și libertăți. România se află sub asediul firmelor de prospecțiuni și ale forțelor de ordine care le apără la ordinul autorităților împotriva cetățenilor care nu și-au dat vreodată acordul ca proprietățile lor să fie prospectate pentru gaze de șist. În urmă cu un an, pe 2 decembrie 2013, la punct, armate de jandarmi descindeau împotriva localnicilor unui sat care au îndrăznit să se împotrivească construirii unei sonde de explorare. Asediul a durat câteva luni, iar reprimarea agresivă împotriva propriilor cetățeni nu este anchetată. În ciuda a numeroaselor de poziție din partea societății civile sau comunităților internaționale. Cu ce te poți lupta în fața unui astfel de asediu, în fața unui astfel de dispreț față de cetățeani și față de valorile europene? Mereu am fost de părere că propriile drepturi ca cetățeni sunt arme suficiente. Așa că, înarmat cu dreptul la petiționare și cel de liberă circulație, am pornit din Ploiești, localitatea mea de domiciliu, pe jos, spre Parlamentul European, de la care aștept să se instaureze respectul pentru lege și drepturi. Am parcurs 3000 de kilometri, am întâlnit sute de oameni care astfel au aflat că românii nu vor cianură și gaze de șist. Acesta fiind și motoul acestei, una strigată cu toată convingerea. Vă provoc să ascultați părerea cetățenilor Uniunii Europene, pentru că viitorul Europei, ei îl vor duce în spate. Vă rog pe dumneavoastră, stimați europarlamentari, destinataria întregului meu demers și al acestei scrisori, depuneți toate eforturile pentru ca mineritul cu cianuri și exploatarea gazelor de șist prin fracturare hidraulică să nu mai reprezinte un clivaj enorm între ceea ce cetățenii își doresc și ceea ce autoritățile se ambiționează să promoveze. Iar acest lucru se poate face într-un singur fel. Ascultați vocea celor mulți. Interziceți folosirea cianurii în minerit și exploatarea gazelor de șist prin fracturare hidraulică. Este singura strategie care poate pune bazele unui viitor durabil în Europa. Mulțumesc!
Oh, hello. Before I read out my statement today, I would like to, besides dedicate the award to Sandu and Bujesti, I would also like to remind there's people in other countries that are already going through this and they can't do anything about it. We've got Brian Monk in Australia, whose family are in a prison in his own home and his own land. His grandchildren waking up with nosebleeds. We've got methane gas coming up through the ground. We've got Jessica Reyes in Canada that's had her water supply. These are real people. She had a water supply contamination. She's taken on a multi-million-pound company in Canada. And she's been targeted as a terrorist just for taking on a corporation. And we've also got Terry Greenwood, who died of brain cancer this year, and there's been a few more people in that area. He's been fighting fracking in Texas. So this is America, Texas, Australia, where all the evidence. And I just found out today there is a town in 2012 that had to up sticks. It's now a ghost town because the ground was contaminated by routine hydrofracturing. So these are the people that we're fighting for. The evidence is out there, it's overwhelming. And my war particularly, as well as Sandu, is dedicated to those people. That we still have a chance of stopping this before any more damage can be done. So now I'd like to just read the statement. So today, December 1st, Romania Day, Alexander, Sandu and I sit before you, having walked 3,150 kilometres to this city. We have entered Brussels from the east and the west. Sandu has undertaken a 92-day walk from Majesty on the far side of Romania, while I, Gaza Tariani, Gaza Fratman, have walked from Downing Street in London, the home of our Prime Minister, David Cameron. We made this journey to talk to you about fracking. Sandu, about cyanide. To tell you about the way, for both of us, our homes, communities and countrysides are being invaded and abused by the fracking companies. We represent concerned people from all over Romania and the UK, but also people throughout Europe who are being forced to fight for our environment, for our rights to health, clean air and water, for justice and climate. This one industry alone will release into the atmosphere enough methane, the worst greenhouse gas, to overwhelm any savings Europe manages to make in the carbon dioxide emissions. Please listen to us. My 14-day walk is in part a protest against our Prime Minister, David Cameron, who wants to make my hometown of Blackpool in Lancashire, in the northwest of England, the fracking capital of Europe, in order to force this through, is dismantling democracy, our freedom of speech and human rights, and this is unforgivable. My house is over 8 kilometres from the drilling site, which was damaged in a fracking-induced earthquake on April 1st, 2011, as were many others on the Far Coast near Blackpool. We made the world news. Ever since I have been asked questions and researching the truth about unconventional oil and gas industry. I have helped start anti-fracking groups in my area and beyond, and helped to raise awareness through meetings and presentations. I have helped connect anti-fracking groups around the country. The handful of groups has grown to over 30 in Lancashire and nearly 300 in the UK. We are formidable. You know, women are a major driving force behind the collective awareness that fracking is wrong and needs to be stopped. Mothers, grandmothers and great-grandmothers tirelessly fighting the powerful industry, government, PR juggernaut that tries to tarnish us and undermine our unselfish efforts. This is my 4th protest walk, follows my 2 others from the north of England to London and to Downing Street in the last year, to hand deliver letters to David Cameron with 25 anti-fracking resident groups containing our fears for our communities and evidence of impacts it could have on us, on our children's health and their futures. We received nothing from the Prime Minister but a curt 6-line reply. Just 3 days ago, the UK government chief scientific advisor warned in a new report that fracking could be as damaging as thalidomide, tobacco and asbestos. But will he be listening to this? No. We know that the British government and the House of Lords have too many members with vested interest in the oil and gas industries. Too many powerful advisors and lobbyists from within the industry making an unbiased decision, making it impossible. Our regulations in the UK are weak for onshore oil and gas. And we, on the ground, know how pitiful official monitoring has been, how bad is best practice. So this is why Sandu and I are here today, why we have walked so far in protest. And now we look to you, to the European Parliament and Commission, to revisit and recognise the dangers of fracking and other unconventional oil and gas extractions, and to support our plea for a ban on the practice in the European Union. Today, I bring with me a report recently commissioned by Bianca Jagger's Human Rights Foundation in the UK, which calls for a moratorium on fracking on human rights grounds. The authors of the report, a human rights assessment of fracking, identify human rights legislation which our government has a responsibility to respect and protect. We are entitled to life and security of person, water and health, home and private life, people participation and decision-making processes for environmental matters. But the fracking violates all these and could breach the rights of future generations, as well as human rights, issue of climate change. I therefore urge the European Parliament to take note of this report and to uphold our human rights and defend them against this industry, which remains intent on wringing the last of the fossil fuels from the earth in the most brutal and toxic way by fracking. Most of all, I ask you to listen to not just to listen to us, but to the many who have already suffered from fracking. Please listen, please help us. I would like to thank Green MP Keith Taylor. He's just turned up, has he? How are you doing? What's going on? For supporting us and our protest, and for delivering a letter to Mr Juncker outlining these concerns on our behalf. I also thank all of those who fight this industry, like my fellow campaigners, Sandu, who sits beside today after our epic walk. I would just like to add, it is coming from the normal, regular people. We are the democracy. They're trying to dismantle democracy. And together, we can fight this. United, we will win. We fight, we will win. please, Mr Juncker, please, the EU, listen to the people. We don't want fracking. We don't want our water or our soil poisoned. Please help us. Please listen to the people. Thank you.
Well, I should be like Mick Jagger here with 2 microphones, but only a small mouth. Yeah, well done. Thank you very much, and thank you for your fantastic effort in walking so far to bring public attention to Brussels, to where the argument is being fought. Last year, the European Parliament did, in fact, support in the revisions to the Environmental Impact Directive. They did support mandatory environmental impact assessments on all hydrocarbon exploration and extraction projects. Furthermore, they also supported a mandatory baseline test readings before work even started on all those projects, because we simply wouldn't know 6 months, year down the road, whether or not fracking had made things worse or had a benign effect. That was supported by a majority of the European Parliament. It was when it got to the European Council of Ministers that they threw it out. And largely responsible for that was the British government, to our shame, and the Polish government, who of course had fallen hook, line and sinker for the vision of American fracking. And I went there to Poland, and I spoke to the environmental minister there, and they said, but look at all the mistakes that have been made in America. And the response was, we'll do it better. This is absolute rubbish. In fact, the market is not following the Polish enthusiasm. And I think that's what it comes down to. From what listening to what you managed to hear there, what's so frustrating and infuriating is that this hydrocarbon extraction is going to work because people who know nothing about hydrocarbon extraction say it's going to work, because it's a conceit, an intellectual conceit that actually says we don't have to sort one problem out because this technology will solve all our problems. This is rubbish. And the chief scientist of the British government said just on Friday last week, it could be as damaging as thalidomide, as tobacco and asbestos. And I'm sure all those substances had their champions in their time, but now we know different, and I'm sure we're going to know different. And thanks to your efforts and the efforts of MEPs here and concerned campaign groups all over Europe, we have to prevail and actually get our messages across and our messages understood. And the people, once they know what the risks are, actually, of course, they don't want it.
Precisely.
And they shouldn't have to have it, that's what I'm saying. So thank you. I'm sorry I was late, by the way.
Hello, everyone. I would like to add a few words about the ban cyanide campaign and about the cyanide-based mining. I'm very happy to be here, but I would like to discuss maybe more about the future results of such a meeting. I appreciate the fact that we all share our opposition against fracking or cyanide mining, but I would like to ask you more about what the Green Group would do precisely to help with these causes. And I refer specifically to the ban cyanide campaign. As you already know, the Greens Group have several resolutions against cyanide-based mining. There is also a European resolution from 2010 that asked the Commission for an immediate ban of such substance in mining. Of course, you know that the Commission has done nothing to implement such a resolution, and though the vote of the European Parliament was in a vast majority against using cyanide in mining, nothing was done. We only have a mining waste directive that is totally inefficient to protect communities and water sources. And my question would be, is it in fact, my request to you from the communities in Romania would be to see if it's possible that the Greens group would write to the new Commission, especially to Mr. Vella, but also to Mr. Juncker, to restate its opposition to such a technique. And if so, do you have, I don't know, discussions, maybe tell us a bit of a timeline for such a support initiative for the campaigns? Because honestly, I don't think that only sharing ideas is enough to fight these very severe problems. Thank you.
Can I just say a quick word, because I actually have an economics meeting, an economic committee in a bit about tax justice, so I'm going to have to nip off and be there because I have to hold the chair to account right at the beginning. But I just wanted to say on the specific issues that you raised, we do have a problem here, which I think we've all mentioned, which is the fact that the people are most represented in the Parliament, and obviously some of the groups in the Parliament, because we're representing the GUE, the left group, and the Green group here. So our groups are more strongly against fracking, and I would say represent people better. But unfortunately, right across Europe, a large number of people vote for politicians who don't really represent their interests at all. So firstly, it's difficult to get things through in the Parliament on these kinds of issues, particularly on environmental issues. But even if we're successful there, then we also have to get agreement from the Commission and the Council. And in the case of fracking, that's where most of the blocks happen. So Keith's already mentioned the Council blocking the ban on fracking. And also in the case of cyanide mining and other environmentally destructive technologies as well. We work very hard to get support in the Parliament, then the Commission unfortunately doesn't enforce that. So I think, it sounds like a good idea certainly to write a letter to the new Environment Commissioner and to keep that pressure up, and we will continue to do that. But, we have this three-part decision-making process, and so however much we manage to persuade our colleagues in the Parliament, we can also be blocked in those other places, unfortunately.
A very short reply, sorry for doing this. But yeah, as you said at the beginning, it's need to keep up the pressure and the high profile of such issues. And I believe that a strong letter from the part of your groups that you represent today would be very helpful in fighting this together. And it needed to be reminded.
Yeah, maybe I have to say some word about myself. My name is Stefan Bernhard Eck, and I belong to the Partei Mensch, Umwelt, Tierschutz. This means Party for Human, Environment and Animal Welfare. So I be used to struggle for very difficult goals, for animal rights, for environmental rights and for human rights. And a big part of this struggle, I fight against very strong companies. And it's the same on this matter with fracking. There are powerful companies behind it, which have only one thing in mind, and this is maximize their profits. They not look to the left side or to the right side, they not look in the future, what they do to the coming generations, what they do to the earth, only profit. But anyway, I be sure if we fight together, if we struggle together, if there are a lot of people in this house, but also outside on the streets, and send out a very strong signal. We don't want fracking. The profits are not everything on this earth. We have to look deeper to the real values. And and then maybe we can succeed. I belong to the European Left Party, to the GUE NGL, and I be proud that the GUE NGL, exactly than the European Greens, we don't want fracking here in Europe. But some other political groups, they are more dictated by the capital. But I'm sure if there is enough pressure from the streets, it has some influence about the decisions in this house. Therefore, don't give up to fight. You have the right and you have the obligation to do it. Thank you.
I may say something. I've been participating in a lot of debates at European level. I'm living in Belgium, so I'm very involved in this, and it's about fracking. And I may say that the European Commission, it's never listening to the civil society. And in fact, the only hope that we have is coming from you, because you are the only institution with elected people. The others are just working for the lobby. And they simply don't, they ignore all the proofs that we are giving them. They want, I don't know if you know about the new lobby system they have. It's called network at the Joint Research Center. And I was there at the first conference, and we came with proofs, and they simply don't want to listen to us. And they pretend everything that had happened in United States, in Australia, in Canada doesn't exist. And they want to start it from zero in Europe, simply ignoring all these proofs. So I want to propose, like, because they make such a huge lobby here in the European Parliament. I know you are assaulted with all kind of lobbyists. Why not we do the same? As is every 5 minutes here in the European Parliament an event pro-fracking. It's like the future of shale gas in Europe, and all over Brussels there are all kind of events. Why not we do the same? And why not, for example, next year we should organize an event, but a big event, and we should invite people like from UK, people which are suffering already from fracking, people from Australia. If you have seen the movie Lock the Gate, and what is happening there in Australia, it's simply horrible. They should come and testimony and tell us what is happening. People from Poland, people from Romania. It's horrible what is happening. So we have to stop this madness of fracking. We have to do something, really. And we can work together, we can help you, and you can help us. But together we can fight against this. Otherwise, there is no choice, I think. So I really propose that we next year we should organize, let's say in March or April, a big event with people coming from all over the world, and like from United States. I'm part of Frack Free Europe organization, and we have contacts with everybody in the whole world, in fact. And like from scientific world in United States, scientific world in Australia, simple people, just affected people, as Geyser said before. And now they have nose bleedings and all these horrible experiences, just because some people are getting rich and the others are getting sick. This is absolutely not fair. So, if you agree, we can lobby for this event, and with your help, perhaps we can do it next year.
We want to know what the next step is. That this is the beginning of something. That we're not just going to come here today, speak, and then not do anything. This has to be the beginning of the step forward to stopping fracking. The people are talking, the people are speaking, regular people. So we need to know what the next step is. And next March, just before our elections, would be absolutely ideal. If we could do March, would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I know that last year our group organised a big fracking awareness event in the Parliament, and we had Josh Fox came here to screen his Gaslands 2 film, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be done. Again, I don't know. I can't remember who led on that. I think it was the French Greens, Jose Bové. He helped put that together, and certainly we've got a campaigner who works on the issues, and I don't know what plans we have for. Do you know? Would you like to tell us?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's good. I knew somebody would have the answer.
Yes, so if I may, maybe we can combine both ideas. We might only have a problem with the British election timing issue then, because what our problem is that we got now the Commission finally moving at the beginning of this year. They issued some non-binding, non-legislative recommendations how member states should regulate or in the national legislation tackle the issue of fracking. And there's actually a deadline in July next year where they are supposed to monitor and to evaluate if this non-binding approach has proved successful. And what we would like to demonstrate until then, and that's where we are very much in contact with NGOs and also movements, to show them that this is not enough, that these recommendations are not listened to, that they are not transposed, that this non-legal approach is actually not working. And this is why we were thinking about organizing a conference in May-June next year, and to invite people from the Commission, invite people from the member states and show them, look, we have evidence, we have different cases in different countries, in Romania, in Poland, in the UK, where we see that the national legislation that has been put in place is not actually covering and is not adhering to the recommendations that were issued, and that's why we need EU-level action. So I think it's an idea that we have developed together with the NGOs, and that could perfectly be combined with probably testimonies even worldwide to say, look, it's not all rosy it's not all rosy in the United States and so on. So probably we can combine both ideas and really send a strong united signal to the other institutions with that conference, and to say, look, we need a legislative approach here, we need a regulation and revision of the Environmental Impact Assessment Directive and all the other directives that are touched by that. So that was the conference concept we were looking into until now, and I think we will be very open to combine this with other ideas and to check with you who could be like persons to invite to that conference and to contribute to that conference.
If Dolu from Romania can say a few words, but I have a bit space.
Bună ziua, mă simt onorat și cred că la fel ca și ceilalți colegi de-ai mei că suntem alături de dumneavoastră și vreau să vă cerem sprijinul și la nivelul comunității științifice.
And he would like your support as well at the level of the scientific world.
Pot să spun că fac parte dintr-un colectiv care studiem procesul tehnologic de fracturare hidraulică.
He's part of a team who is studying the process scientifically, the process of hydraulic fracking.
Și vreau să vă spun că realitatea vă depășește cu mult orice coșmar v-ați avea.
And the reality, it's beyond any nightmare that you could have about this.
Ca să pornesc, vă spun câteva idei. Toată lumea știe că discutăm despre un foraj vertical, orizontal și injecția de multă apă.
Just to tell you a few ideas, everybody knows that it's just a drilling, vertical drilling, and then followed by a horizontal drilling and some injection of some water.
Se mai spune că se mai adaugă nisip, dar cam aici se oprește toată povestea lor.
And they mention some little bits of sand that they add, but then they stop the story.
Ce nu se spune, dar deja am găsit brevetele lor de invenție și se laudă pe diverse site-uri cu părți din această tehnologie.
But what they don't say, but they have discovered some inventions, and they are proud of these discoveries.
Nisipul este adăugat pentru proprietățile piezoelectrice și multe alte fenomene electrochimice pe care le induce.
This is too technical for me.
The sand is introduce.
The sand is there just for the sole purpose of the piezoelectrical properties and the electromagnetic, the electric properties that the sand has.
And electrochemical.
And the electrochemical properties that the sand in reaction with water would
Și se ajunge până la nivel de transmutație nucleară.
And the lowest, the minutest level, or the last level where this chemical electrical reaction is the nuclear transmutation. Nuclear transmutation.
Are loc pe lângă adăugarea nisip se adaugă pulbere de cupru, conform unui brevet din 84.
So, this is getting very technical. So, besides sand, there's copper dust added into the injection of.
Și conform unui brevet din 2011 se adaugă uraniu sărăcit, depleted uranium.
And according to another invention draft, depleted uranium is injected as well.
Aceasta adăugări plus folosirea de explozibili foarte puternici generează peste 20 de fenomene electrochimice.
So all this cocktail, if I may call it like that, along with using very high explosives, are generating over 20. You're going too fast. I can't keep track. That's the dose
Peste 20 de fenomene electrochimice.
All this combined with the high explosives are generating over 20 electrochemical phenomena.
Care sunt cu emisii de fotoni pe diverse lungimi de undă și diverse nivele de energie.
So the result of this is photon emission on different wavelengths and frequencies.
Și emisie de electroni.
And emission of electrons.
Electron emissions. Ca să vă dau o concluzie, pot să continui cu explicațiile.
We start with the explanation today, but as a conclusion,
acolo are loc este un reactor chimic cu valențe nucleare.
Basically, we're talking about a chemical reactor with a nuclear side to it, yeah.
Și are loc modificarea semnăturii spectrografice.
And there's change in the spectrographic signature of the substances involved in fracking.
Să vă dau două exemple. Ca să simple.
Brilliant.
Două exemple simple, să dau ca să se înțeleagă despre ce vorbim.
Just two very quick examples.
O să iau pe cineva, oricare persoană.
Any of us here.
O să mergem la o grădină zoologică.
We could go to a zoo. So any of us here, just going to a zoo, it's just an example.
O să luăm ce animal găsim acolo, un elefant,
We can take any animal in the zoological garden, anything.
O să mergem la o grădină botanică, o să luăm un stejar, un mesteacă.
Then we'll go to a botanical garden and we can take any sap or a tree or anything like that.
Păpădie, orice. Trecem pe la ghena de gunoi și luăm ce găsim acolo.
Next step is to go to the dumpster and get anything we can find there.
Putem adăuga beton, cărămid, asfalt, orice.
So we can, and into the mix we'll throw some concrete, some asphalt, anything like that, any bricks.
Pun toate astea într-un recipient și am făcut fracturarea hidraulică.
Everything is put in a cauldron, if you want to call it, and we introduce hydraulic fracturation.
Și nimeni, nici astăzi, nici peste 1000 de ani,
and nobody would, not even 1000 years,
să scoată un fragment de ADN din persoana care a fost
would be able to extract one minute quantity of DNA from that cauldron there.
Asta e primul exemplu.
So this is the first example.
Și al doilea exemplu,
The second example would be,
care înseamnă modificarea semnăturii spectrografice.
So this is in context with the modification of the spectrographical signature of substances.
Toată lumea știe că organismele vii sunt generatoare de carbon 14.
So it's common knowledge that all human beings generate carbon 14, C14.
Din momentul în care respectivul organism viu moare,
Just when that living organism dies,
cantitatea de carbon 14 scade.
the quantity of C14 depletes, drops. Yeah.
Dacă am merge la un muzeu american și am cere un schelet de dinozaur
If we go and get a dinosaur skeleton, for example, yeah,
și l-am analiza, am vedea că are, să zicem, 80 de milioane de ani.
and if we wouldn't analyze it with the Codman method, we'd see that's probably 80
Another
billion
isotopes.
years. Yeah.
Another isotopes.
Another isotopes, of course, along C14.
Dar dacă l-am pune la diverse distanțe de zona de fracturare,
But if we associate it at various distances from fracking sites,
am face operație de fracturare,
and we'd introduce fracking as well, yeah,
în funcție de distanța de la zona de fracturare, el va fi mai tânăr sau mai nou.
according
Sau
to the
mai
distance.
tânăr sau mai vechi, da.
Can I just ask, we've got limited time.
Yeah, I know we should. Yeah, you
How
just
long
you
would
just got invited to a conference where
Second.
this is gonna happen.
Second.
Yeah, okay.
Just second. And the first, primul os va avea, să zicem, o săptămână.
So basically, according to the distance from the fracking zone, the bones would have higher or lower signatures of C14, so it would be older or younger.
Deci primul os va avea o săptămână de când a murit dinozaurul, al doilea poate un an, al treilea 100 de ani.
I'm focused this time.
Da?
Da. So
Avem
basically,
nevoie
this
de
is what
oameni de
fracking
știință.
does. It says that we need scientists to help the research as well.
Da. Da. Yeah, thanks.
Okay,
Thanks a lot.
thank you very much. This was very scientific, but for me very interesting, and I promise you I will stick my nose deeper in this subject. But I just want to say some other words. We live in a very funny world. We create some techniques, and very quick these techniques glide us out of the hands, and we humans, nature, animals, we are in danger. When I remember we use nuclear energy, and in so many countries they still agree to build more nuclear power plants. And they have forgotten what's happening in Windscale, Harrisburg, Chernobyl, and Fukushima. It is for me not understandable how people can completely close their eyes and the ears and going on. We know it is a technique with a very high risk, and we didn't know at the moment what we do with the nuclear waste. And fracking for me sounds similar. We use there a technique with such a high risk for our health, for the nature, for the water. And we close eyes and ears and going on. I don't know what we can do. I think it has something to do about mankind.
Can I?
But one thing I will promise you, if you are planning to making here some protest or some action next year, I'll be on your side, and I will support you with all the power, and I will speak with my political group that they support you, and I think maybe there we can make a cooperation together with the European Greens, of course, and we will support you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, with all due respect, you sound a bit frightened of the big companies. But we should look at this way. These companies are financed by some very big banks, and all these loans they take are given by some economists, right? So we have to take into consideration the economical part of the situation. You have the power here to make legislation in the sense of also how the money are spent on these kind of issues. This is another issue that is not debated, how the money of the banks are spent on dangerous projects. I don't know. In the UK Parliament recently has been a debate on how money is created that hasn't been held by hundreds of years in the UK. Now is the time to really stand at a table with the bankers, with economists, with everyone, and take a step back to see what we have accomplished in this period. What can we do? Because, as I said in the square outside, we are living in a ship. Yeah, this planet is a ship traveling through the universe at a high speed, high velocity, around the sun and around the center of the galaxy. Yeah, that it has finite resources. We are a globe with finite resources, but the economy only sees exponential growth. In my field of work, where I come from biology and ecology, I always learned about the bell curve. Nowhere in a finite world there is exponential growth on a time scale infinitely. Okay, so at some point there will be a stop and a downfall. We have to think about, even the sun is not forever. Everything is finite. Everything has a cycle. We have to take into consideration these higher issues that come on the lower problems, our problems. I come from a community where cyanide is an issue. Okay, I started in university to learn about these things and used my years in college to learn about it. And now I'm faced with the same companies that you talked about are affecting my family, my village people, okay? And I think this is a global issue, and we should think globally and act locally. This is the principle of sustainability. We cannot go further without this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just awfully quickly, because I don't know what time the meeting finishes, but I have to leave quite quickly. Yes, you're entirely right. We can't have infinite growth on a finite planet. I mean, it's a total no-brainer. I think what we need to be doing is making the connections between the extraordinarily well-researched Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, who published a report a month ago, who said, look, if we haven't ended our fossil fuel use by 2100, it's game over. You know, this really is the point of no return. And that, I think, is going to be something which I hope that the leaders and all the different countries in the world will take on board. One of the outcomes of the conference that we're talking about next year, I hope, would be a very strong message to the Paris conference on climate change, which is hopefully setting the framework for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions over the next years. I think there's a role for strengthened regulation, because we need to actually achieve a shift in the way that we the way that we create energy and the way that we use energy, and we do so in a low carbon way, because it's energy creation which is principally responsible for the rising emissions, whether it's energy used in transport, in industry, in domestic situations. We need to make the connections between really what's happening on the global scale and what's happening at the macro level. Now, in the UK, we were seeing the start of divestment programs. So pension funds are looking to divest themselves of investments in fossil fuel creating activities. And so they are, in the same way that many pension funds stopped investing in cigarette companies, in tobacco companies, now they're beginning to look to the industrial use and saying, look, you know, we don't care if it's just a few points different in the money we generate from our investment, but we actually want to play a responsible role in investing in things that are going to make things better, not worse. Yeah. So.
Can I just say, because we are limited, you're going to be going, what we're really looking for today, all the people today, we're looking for something concrete, we're looking for something that's going to be the next step. We need a spotlight put onto these industries, a spotlight, and this could be the step that is being mentioned here, because at the moment, you are miles away from us. That's why you're just connecting with all the different states. You know, your MEPs, I don't even know who my MEPs are where I live. That's wrong. That's a disconnect. What we need to do is feel like we're being connected with you. We need to know concrete what you're going to do and put a spotlight on our politicians, on our prime ministers, and in our different areas. We could do with the next step being maybe, you know, having a panel where we're looking into this with our experts, because we keep hearing from their experts that it's going to be bringing down gas prices, it's going to be bringing in jobs, right? We know that's not true, but we need a spotlight, and this could be the first step to doing that. But we need to know in this room that we're going to, you know, June's going to be too far away. We need something more concrete sooner than that. That's why we're here today. You know, in our own town, we're all volunteers. I think I'm a volunteer. Yeah. We're all volunteers. Yeah. So we need to, you know, we're not on salary, but we need to know now. We need to leave here today with something concrete. What we're going to be doing, maybe a way in, maybe a panel that we can bring from the communities into the EU, feeling like we're connected. Because I still feel disconnected from the EU in a major way.
Yeah, just awfully quickly. I mean, and this is how it simply how it is. We tried to get the revision to the Environmental Impact Directive last year, and the Council of Ministers stopped it. It is the member state responsibility to satisfy their energy needs in whichever way they think is the most appropriate. So if George Osborne thinks that fracking is the most appropriate way, that's what we'll do in the UK. But the thing is, what I did, I spent several months touring the South East region, which is why you don't know me as your MEP, because you don't live there. But I spent 6 weeks touring the region with Lech Kowalski's film, Drill Baby Drill. And we were going into the places where fracking is a possibility, with the new round of licenses to be granted. And it was doing what politicians should do, which is to explain to people what's going on and what they can do about it. And one of the things that people can do about it is to activate and to turn it into a political issue.
That's what but help us do that. I mean, remember, you're talking to regular people here. We need that. We need that kindness. We need that. But we also need a voice in the. We need a panel from each one of the groups that's actually in the EU, that we can pass that to our groups, so we feel like we're actually doing something. I'll give you an example about when you talk about individual governments. The UK, £340 million for failing air quality. 340 million from the EU. That's wrong. We didn't do that. Our government did that, and they're not being, and we're being penalised because we're paying that bill. You know, that's going on. There must be something that's You know, if we've got regulation for one thing, we're going to have a regulation for another thing. We can't be fined when it's not our problem. And we're now paying that price in all our communities for poisoning our water, and also paying the fine for doing that because somebody isn't doing the job. What if the EU have got muscles? If they have got muscles from Brussels, well, let's start flexing it against fracking. Not just fining us because we're failing, our government's failing, and they're pulling air monitors. Yeah, this is the wrong bit of it. If we have got legislation for one thing, we have to have it for other things as well. And we're not toothless. We've all proved in our areas we're not toothless. We have, but we need to have something concrete. And we want to leave here today with something concrete. Please help us. That's what we're saying. Please help us. Don't let this day go to waste.
And if I may add something of what you said before, Mr. Taylor. The fact is that this is the speech of the lobby. They always tell about this mix, the energy mix. But I hate this speech because we don't contest the energy mix. And of course, every state is responsible for this. We contest what we are against of. It's the technology itself. So I think our approach is a little bit wrong in this case because, okay, you can choose your own energy mix, but we don't care. If you can extract shale gas in other technology, go for it. But no fracking. So in fact, technology is what is wrong in this.
My name is Lenz. I came from Germany. I have a short question. Why is it possible in the European Parliament to have projects to spend a lot of money to recover and to recycling all what you have as like problem? Why we don't do it before we do destroy all? Why are you not thinking? I like example. Cobalt conference about raw materials. We asked already why you have money to recover, to take back what is from mining, for example. Sorry, my English is very bad. Why you have money for this and you have no control about really has done? Why Europe has money to recover what somebody else destroyed it already? For that, it's enough money, but
it's a complicated thing.
I know, but I went to the conference. I saw it is possible from Europe to take action. Act is an instrument, a way.
Yeah, I think what we have to do, we look at the three strands of the European lawmaking. It's the Council of Ministers, who are the appointed member state government representatives. It's the European Parliament, where you've got 756 MEPs who are elected. And then you've got the Commission, who are the bureaucrats, who write the laws. Now, until the Lisbon Treaty came into being about 6 or 7 years ago, a lot of the information, a lot of the decisions were taken by the Commission and by the Council. But the Lisbon Treaty was important because it gave us a dual decision making with the Council. Now we're on the left side. We have to actually deal with 756 other MEPs, the majority of which are on the centre right. The majority of which are listening to the business lobby, and the Commission is listening to the business lobby, who are spending millions of euros in making their own case. Like we saw it with e-cigarettes, we saw it with the hydrocarbon legislation around the environmental impact assessment directives. So it's quite a complicated thing because we've got to work with all those people to try and get what we want. Now last year I mentioned that quite big consultation that the Commission did around environmental impact assessments, and the recommendations they come up with were simply that. They could have been guidelines, they could have been implementable guidelines, but they chose, because they knew that the European Union Council of Ministers didn't want the legislation to go through, and they knew that the corporations really didn't want this legislation to go through. And then you've got the British government, who a week after the announcement, the decision not to proceed with the directive in the way that we wanted to, actually said, well, this is all about European red tape. You know, this is about gold plating European environmental legislation. Well, we know different. We know that actually that's the sort of legislation that we want to see in Lancashire, that we want to see in Sussex, that we want to see in Poland, and all places that fracking is going. And the European Union is, and I'll shut up in a minute, it has examples of good practice. In France, they apparently love their agriculture, and they love their food, and they love their countryside.
So I know.
So they love it much more than we do in England, which is because they have activated, they have got their politicians to pass a moratorium on hydrocarbon extraction. And that's the only way we can do it. We can try and raise awareness, and we can try and spread the word, but ultimately it's down to the member state governments to do what they need to do. I've stopped.
Okay, we have three messages
30
more, and then we have
30
two.
seconds, I promise to
Please.
you. No, I can't say it yet. I was always taught in school that the European Union was founded on the idea to prevent war, every future wars. I know we've gotten very technical here, both technically in technologies and politically. But I think we have to go back to that. We are now at war with ourselves. And people have to remember that, especially people here. Not only the members of the European Parliament, the Commission as well. But we are at war ourselves. So if this is what the European Union has gotten to, it's failed miserably. They have to be reminded. They have to.
I would also like to speak, please. First to guess.
Thank you. My name is Mihai Văcănescu, and I'm working here in Brussels, and I was involved in the activities for, well, it was against especially the gold mining, but also with the fracking. And to be as brief as possible, I want to come back to two things that are interlinked. First, what the gentleman from the UK was saying, and then what you were saying about coming from this meeting with something concrete, and then what you said with the French example. And you practically, thank you for this, you tossed the ball into my court. What I was thinking about, and I would like to propose here, you know, we're speaking about technical issues, and for instance, in Romania, in both actually in Romania and the UK, let's say the scientific fora have said, no, this is bad. Okay, the politicians don't listen to, but we have France and we have also Germany, where politicians and scientists agree that this is bad. And you know, you were saying you are on the left side of the parliament, but you have to deal with the right or center-right parties. Well, if I'm not mistaken, many of those come from France or Germany, where they, with their own citizens, they came to an agreement. Okay, this is bad, we shouldn't do fracking, or we postpone it for much later. And the same with cyanide mining. So I'm thinking, yeah, we should either make, and please help us, a big conference, but with those politicians and those scientists, you know, to put it bluntly, okay, this is wrong, or maybe let's do the opposite. Let's go and say, listen, if there is such a big discussion about this, let's make a law. Let's see how the other member states react. Because I see, unfortunately, the UK and Romania and Poland, they say, our politicians say, no, we can go like that. Let's see what happens if we turn it into a legislation for everyone. Because in the end, it's everyone's health at stake. You know, if something bad happens with the water in Romanian river, you know, we have Hungary, Serbia, Bulgaria that start complaining. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not, but let's see what happens. Thank you.
One very short. proposal for you. You mentioned that we fight with like political will, and the political will is what we lack to have a cyanide ban or a fracking ban. And you also mentioned that you belong to groups, political groups that are not the majority, and you also have to convince fellow MEPs to support these ideas. And we know that all of us work and enjoy to have facts. So what I am proposing to you is maybe support a study that shows the amount of jobs that are lost because of these technologies, cyanide mining, versus the job creation, because one of the most important argument of the central and right parties is the job creation, the money that are coming from such technologies. And I think you have the means, the financial means, to prove through a study that is shown to everyone that the economic argument and the job creation argument is fake. And when you don't have a sustainable argument such as the job creation, then you defeat them with their weapons. And I think you have to look in the arguments that are important for these right-wing or central-wing parties, so that you show them what they want to see. And jobs, it's a fake argument. And we need support, because we have some studies that show at the local level that cyanide mining is in fact killing the local economy, and this leads to losing jobs. But we don't have a study at European level, though we have more than 20 projects starting in Europe in 8 different European countries. So this is what the European Parliament and people like you that are very into the issue can support, such a study that shows facts. Thank you.
Just one question.
Thank you. I just very briefly, and under the command of our 2 MEPs, I'm an assistant to Mr. Eck, and I've been covering the European Union for many, many years. And I think that we have to remind something here, is that Mr. Taylor mentioned there are 3 institutions participating at some point, somehow, with the decision system. And the thing is, here in the European Parliament, of course, the MEPs can raise political awareness and can try to persuade the European Commission to make proposals, and the member states ministers to take decisions in the Council. But you have to also to bear in mind that there are many issues on which the member states, the governments, they have the political power. So the European Union is the result of a very delicate balance between, or unbalance most of the time, between 28 different countries with different cultures, different languages, different interests sometimes. And so, and on the top of that, you have 2 mainstream parties who are the majority inside the parliament and in the member states. So I put also a little bit the ball on your side. Sorry to be a bit provocative. I understand your frustration, totally share your worries, and I'm sure that we can organize to do things together to some extent. But the thing is, try to persuade your neighbors, your cousins, your fathers, mothers, sisters, like I do. Try to persuade them every time you have a national election in your countries. Try to persuade them to vote on the GUE and on the Green MEPs, or in your countries on those parties who support these ideas, because the day when Europe will have more voters voting on those political forces who defend environment, sustainability, and are less open to business, we might improve. So without the political majorities in our member states to change things, the parliament will not have the power, you see? So it's a matter of political forces struggling. So let's try to get more voices to support MEPs like these two we have here.
Well, can I just say, we're already doing that. Oh, you agree?
That's great. No, but
You'll
that's
tell us exactly what we're doing. What we want to know now is what can we get back. If the EU can fine us for air quality, then they must have the strength to do other things.
that
what
depends
are
on
they
the
doing at the
issue.
moment?
But that depends
Why
on
don't
the
we
issue.
have a fracking lobby? Why don't we have a basic fracking lobby? The MEPs getting behind a fracking lobby in the EU. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear from Europe, you know, the Green MPs, the lefts, whoever, getting into orbit saying, we are pushing to ban fracking and ban cyanide.
But they are.
That's what we want to
They
hear.
are for years now.
Yeah, and what's happening?
Because they are in a minority.
Well, then we start getting behind a policy, don't we? I know I'm making it sound easy, but that's what we want to hear. That's what we will get behind.
Listen to a very nice story.
Yeah.
I'm an animal rights activist. You know, one of these guys, very strong one, who also going sometimes during the night and take a chicken or a rabbit out. And when I come here in 1st of July this year, we had this intergroup for animal welfare. And the last year, before I not was here, they had 20 MEPs joining this group. And I'm very proud. This year, after my colleague Anja Hasekamp from the Dutch party, the Partei for the Dieren, and I'm from the German Tierschutzpartei, now we have 79 MEPs in the intergroup for animal welfare. Okay. So, you know, I have 2 shoulders and I have 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears. Okay, now listen. The same lobbying I do for animal welfare and animal rights, I promise you, I try on, with all the power I have, anti-fracking lobby. And yeah, let's see what's going on, and I'll be sure Keith will help me. And so, we are already then a team too. And then another comes, and another comes. And each big river starts on the first with one small drop of water. And I know how hard the business is to convince people to do something completely new. From my side, I try to convince people to stop eat animals, because I believe we have no right to eat animals. They are not made only for us. Who said this? Which philosopher said that they are made for us? It's crazy. We eat animals because it's a tradition, and the animals for some of you taste good. But the tasting and the tradition is never a guarantee if we do the ethical and moral right thing. And so I know how hard it is to fight. But I promise you, okay, now you have somebody sitting here, and together with me and Keith, we are lobbying for anti-fracking group.
And cyanide.
And cyanide. And maybe let us end this conference with one word. I know how hard it is, but Gandhi said one word. First they ignore you, then they laugh about you, then they fight against you, and on the end you will win. Okay, we will win.
We will win.
We don't must forget about TTIP, if you know. TTIP, new legislation. TTIP, okay, is very important because transatlantic, that we have much problem. Profits is important, and not rights, the basic rights of people, and this is very important. This is in your hand. Okay. Sorry.
We talk a lot about
yeah.
And as your supporters.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Please send me your email address. So we should have some, from time to time, brainstorming how we can work together. One brain thinks a lot, but more brains think more. And simple. Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you.
That's all right. You said pretty well. Well, I meant to close with the petition.